Welcome back, Guardians. In today's report, we will discuss the unknown force of the darkness, its effect on recent events, which of our enemies seem most motivated by it, and speculate on what it could actually be. The darkness is a truly difficult wonder. If it were not our enemy, it would take a lifetime of careful calculation to only begin to understand. I'm sure if we had the ability to study it without the fear of death and destruction, there would be a great many of us that absolutely would. The darkness is defined in two forms, and both are technically right. It's more a matter of your personal interpretation than it is a matter of law. To put it simply, we define the darkness as the aggressive aliens we face, so the Hive, the Vex, the Fallen, and the Cabal. Although uniquely, the Cabal seem to be the least motivated by the darkness, but more on that later. The second definition describes the darkness as a singular entity, at least in a way. It's more like a driving force acting opposite to the light. Since the light has a champion, an avatar, or traveler, does this presumably mean the darkness does as well? This question, for now, is unanswered, but we do have some interesting theories. First and foremost, the Pujari position, which states the darkness is a moral and evil presence, but has physical elements. It essentially is the opposite of the light as we understand it now. It has a guideline that influences our moral codes, typically what we see as the virtuous traits: empathy, passion, the desire to protect those who cannot provide for themselves. Having any one of these virtues is a singular sign that an individual may be influenced by the light, at least from a moral perspective. The darkness would be considered the light's opposite, both morally and physically. So the virtues, or we should say characteristics, that we could attribute to the darkness are closely linked with the inability to empathize. A crushing moral code that allows one to rationalize or even utilize destruction, death, and decay as useful or natural events. The Pujari position summarizes that the darkness is more than just a malignant force, that a piece of it is an unknowable presence acting upon our moral fabric. Instead of the war zones on Earth, Mars, Venus, and beyond, the true battleground lies in our souls, and we are constantly being tested. The second foundation of the Pujari position, and perhaps much more dangerous of an implication, is that the darkness came directly from within humanity's golden age, a quote, great storm, or as a change in conduct, a corruption that emerged from within and poisoned the golden age. But this theory is somewhat contradictory and incredibly hard to test. We know so little about humanity's past, the traveler's arrival, and our own technology, that it may be some time before the Pujari position is truly merited. Saint 14's theory is a bit different, but has been adapted by a large portion of Guardians when choosing to categorize the enemies we face. Saint 14 believed that the darkness is an actual tangible force of invading armies, and not a type of morality. Now, the Exo-Titan, our Saint 14, is best known for his crusades against the House of Devils and his vocal support of the Warlock Osiris. Saint 14's theory is commonly seen and used in almost every definition of the enemies we face, simply calling them all under a blanket term, the darkness. While a portion of his theory may be accurate, it is unfortunate that it does not fully explain the full picture and should perhaps be treated as a partial at best. Wallen theory is unique in the sense that it defines the darkness as a necessary existence made possible because the traveler and because of the light. Wallen, a warlock from the Cemetery faction, suggests that the darkness must exist alongside the light for there to be a cosmic balance. For without the existence of one, we would not be able to define or even recognize the other. It's an interesting theory. It's difficult to test without a greater understanding of our universe and its complex laws, but does explain why one must exist with the other. The monist theory is perhaps the most thought-provoking and dangerous. It defines our existence in this universe as nothing more than a simulation, an infinitely running time loop meant to test or perhaps study the war of light and darkness that you and I and everyone and everything you've ever met is nothing more than a complex line of codes communicating with one another at near light speed to present the illusion of consciousness. It states the darkness understands the laws of this simulation as a post-singularity entity with advanced intelligence and has begun to bend the rules to favor its own outcomes. Now, if this is truly a simulation, and our true enemy has begun to bend the rules ever so slightly in its favor, the question must be asked, can we not do the same? After all, who says the rules of the simulation have to be followed? The Praxic Creed chooses to instead simplify the darkness into an unknowable, and that we should only focus on its defeat or attrition rather than attempting to quantify or qualify its traits. The one thing many of us in the Tower have learned from years of study is that the more we uncover, the more we reach, the less we truly understand. But you could also oppose this theory by asking, does not the understanding of an enemy come in hand with its defeat? For how could we truly defeat a thing we do not choose to understand? But the Praxic Creed theory could also be a warning, a barrier, if you will, that by attempting to understand the darkness, you open yourself to its perversions, to the lure of power, the temptation it may implant in you. So while you walk down the long abyss of ancient, unknowable knowledge, you forget your identity and forfeit your light. The heretical theories are incendiary. They have caused more political problems and exiles in the Tower that can be counted, but they should be investigated nonetheless. The binary star cult theorized that the Traveler is only using the armies of humanity and its allies as a proxy to defend itself from the ever-encroaching darkness. This theory could explain the Elixni or Fallen's historical whirlwind event. It could explain the Book of Sorrow's cryptic passages referring to the Hive homeworld of Fundament and the Leviathan's appeal to follow the light. The Traveler may not be our ally in the long run. Who says it regains its strength and flees from us during the next alien invasion? Perhaps our salvation lies in our own creation. Perhaps the Warmind Rasputin truly did cripple the Traveler to save us from another whirlwind-like event. But these are just theories, and only with the passage of time will our vision be clear. These are only the reported theories, the ones we hear most often, echoed and hushed in the Tower or city streets. There are more, and with time there will be less. What is yours? But we've omitted so much. The writings from the fractured mind of Tolan the Shattered, the worm gods of the Hive and Taken, and the influence the darkness might have over the aliens we face. More on the Agents of the Darkness in my next report. Hey everyone, Wally here. If you'd like to support the channel further, please feel free to check out the script link, my Patreon, and the new apparel in the Spreadshirt shop, all linked down below. If you want to join the conversation on our Discord server, we allow everyone in. Like the video if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe for more.